call our meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is roll call. Let the minutes reflect all are present. Next thing on the agenda is to set the agenda for today. Any changes, additions, subtractions?
Board President, Board of Managers, two changes for your consideration. Number one is move number 4 under items requiring board action. Consider final certification of 2012 tax levy and budget up to in between, right below permit application, considering and consent agenda, and above open mic. Second change for your consideration is a new number 4 taking the place of the subsequent change titled HEI 2012 fee schedule consideration.
Okay. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next thing is the November 3rd, the emergency meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from November 3rd regarding Dan Harris' account situation.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
November 7th workshop minutes.
Madam Chair, so move approval of November 7th workshop.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the regular board minutes of November 9th.
Madam President, I have abstained from voting because I was absent from both those meetings with prior notice.
Okay, thank you.
November 9th. I'd like to make a motion that we approve November 9th minutes.
Second.
Motion made second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we will recess our regular board minute and call to order our public hearing. The purpose of the hearing is to hear comments and take testimony from parties having an interest in Race Creek Watershed District's proposed draft watershed management plan amendments. Bill?
Thank you. As you're aware, the Race Creek Watershed District has prepared an amendment to our current watershed management plan pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 103B. The purpose of the amendment is to establish water management districts for the sub-watershed areas ACD 102232, ACD 31, ACD 46, ACD 5362 public drainage systems, including those repair reports in the Water Management Plan Capital Improvement Plan. Pending comments at today's hearing, the board will consider final amendments as attached and authorized as to be submitted to Bowser and the other state review agencies for the final 90-day review and final Bowser action. The proposed 4 project areas as listed previously support continued progress towards achieving the goals identified in the district's plan. These projects include management of the public drainage system, including responsible maintenance, continued improvement towards achieving the water quality and quantity goals, as well as resource management goals listed in the plan and other resource plans adopted by the district. The water management districts established for the proposed repair projects will have the purpose of generating revenues to pay for local share allocation of costs for the proposed project.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing we will do is start any public comment. Is there anybody in the public that'd like to be heard today? Please come to state your name and address for the record.
I'm Jim Hafner, Stormwater Manager with the City of Blaine. Madam Chair, board members, Blaine has submitted written comments on this. We've talked with staff and so on. We just thought we'd take this opportunity as part of the public record as well. As you know, our council is very supportive of maintaining the ditches. They have done this through the concurrence that was requested earlier this year on this particular matter of the amendment. There is concern as to how this affects financially our residents, and we know that there will be future meetings that will discuss that, but we just want to make sure that our concern is registered that how this particular method of financing the ditch maintenance and so on will affect our residents is a concern, and we would look forward to the further information on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Is there anybody else today that'd like to comment? Anybody else today that'd like to comment? Okay, if not, we will go ahead and close our hearing, and then we will close our public hearing, and we'll move to our regular agenda. Thank you for your comment. Okay, so the next thing is our permit applications regarding Anoka County Department of Variance requests and a Caprock.
Correct. Good morning, managers, Madam Chair. Managers, this morning we have a variance request before you. You'll see on page 16 of your agenda packet the map showing the general location of the project, which is located in Lino Lakes on County Road 54. Mr. Steve Gurney is present representing the applicant in case we have any questions as we go through this. Generally, the project is the replacement of an existing timber box culvert. You'll also hear us perhaps refer to it as a bridge, and that just happens to do with definition of terms in state statute. The importance of the variance begins on page 20 of your packet, which is Houston's memo. The district did receive a signed variance application, which I have here, stating their case, showing the hardship and such, and responding to the form's questions. Houston has considered those items and then responded to each of the criteria, which you see on page 20, labeled A through F in the column there. And because this is a variance, this memo, these Houston's findings, would become the board's findings regarding the matter. And so it's important that the board consider them and we kind of read through them here.
Okay.
So with your permission?
Go ahead.
Okay, so first, how substantial the variation is is in relation to the RCWD rule requirements. And Greg is going to then summarize, and their review starts on page 21. You'll see evaluation of criteria, and the first block of text there is starting it.
Okay. Go ahead, Greg.
Thank you. The project is proposing to place 16,586 cubic feet of floodplain fill within the 100-year floodplain. This is upstream and downstream of the bridge. The applicant has indicated that the narrowness of the corridor, which you can kind of see on this map what they're doing, they're just replacing this culvert, removing a chunk of the road to do that. Along each side, the blue line indicates the wetland edge on each side of the road. So the applicant has indicated the narrowness of the corridor, along with the presence of the wetland, limits the space available for floodplain mitigation. The applicant has provided a model that indicates the proposed project will decrease the elevation of the 100-year events upstream while not increasing the downstream elevation. Just downstream of this bridge is Peltier Lake. District engineer has reviewed this model. This model was given to the applicant as part of the district model, and so what they've done is they've added in the new bridge to it and then presented it back for our review. The district engineer has reviewed their additions to the model and concurs with their findings. And the district engineer also has determined that no adverse impacts are expected in the floodplain no adverse impacts are expected if the floodplain volume is not replaced.
So managers, then in response to item A, Greg, and I'll just not to put words in his mouth, but the quick summary is that we don't really see that there's a large or a substantial variation from the district rules based on the modeling. So then B asks us the effect of the variance would have governmental services, and that starts at the bottom of page 21, the last block of text.
Issuance of a variance for this bridge or culvert replacement would result in a safety improvement, and also culvert replacement would meet current safety standards for 55-mile-per-hour design speed, which will benefit the public traffic safety. Granting this variance is not expected to have an additional effect on government services.
Okay, and then item C, whether the variance will affect a substantial change in the character of the watershed resources or will be a substantial detriment to neighboring properties. That starts on the top of page 22.
By granting this variance, an opportunity is not lost for improving water quality compared to the current condition.
Okay.
The provided model that indicates the proposed project will decrease the upstream staging while not increasing the downstream staging. District engineer does not expect the flood damages to adjacent properties due to the proposed project.
Okay, and then D, whether the practical difficulty can be alleviated by a feasible method other than the variance. That starts first full block, or the second block of text on page 23.
The applicant has not considered off-site floodplain mitigation as a feasible option for mitigation due to the need to purchase additional right-of-way. And the areas within the immediately adjacent to the road right-of-way are predominantly wetlands. In general, the district engineer finds that the applicant has provided sufficient reasoning to show that the parcel has insufficient on-site upland area to meet the district's floodplain mitigation requirements, and that mitigation off-site would be economically prohibitive.
And then we look at E, how the practical difficulty occurred, whether the landowner created the need for the variance themselves. And that's third block of text on page 23.
District engineer finds that the current landowner did not cause the situation which led to the implied practical difficulty. The need for the project and the variance was created by the need for safety improvement at the crossing of CASA 54 over Hardwood Creek and the limited right-of-way available for the project.
All right, and then finally, item F, whether in light of all the above factors, allowing the variance will serve the interests of justice, and that is the fourth block of text on page 23.
This criteria lies largely in the board's domain as it doesn't involve, it involves a non-technical nature. Our criteria for assessing this proportion of the practical difficulty standard is the ability or inability of other permit applicants with similar site conditions to comply with the Rule E3A requirement. Other applicants have had the ability to feasibly meet the floodplain mitigation requirements on site because they have not had the specific site limitations.
Okay, and then managers, one housekeeping item, and Greg, if you would assist me here on page 21 of your memo, or 21 of the packet. It's the second page of the memo. Second block of text ends with November 30th, 2011. That should actually, I believe, read December 1st, 2011, which is the updated ER, which is found in the board's packet. Is that?
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, so.
So it's December 1st.
Yep, correct. So
Okay.
we should make that, and then if the board could consider that.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move that we grant Anoka County the variance for the road project on County Road 54 and Hardwood Creek in Lino Lakes, Minnesota.
Having met all the criteria.
Having met their criteria in the permit application 10074.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to say that this is a very thorough write-up. My goodness, the details are
Very nice.
very, very well done. And to bring up what you just stated at the very end, I think, Nick, that this is something that is just unique to this particular situation, so that and I just have another question. Was it Centerville at one time that was doing some sort of a bridge and there was a park or a trail alongside of it, that there was a situation that we had to also do a variance on at one time, similar to this? But different circumstances, I understand. But
Correct.
Yeah.
City of Columbus also had something similar.
That's right.
Hornsby Street.
Yep, whenever we have the wetlands, we have.
Madam President,
Yes.
Mr. Engineer, does this mean that that bridge will have this, when it's repaired, will have the, or culvert will have the sign removed that says 2 trucks are not allowed to meet on it at the same time?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the Anoka County Highway Department
Yep.
application,
10.
10074.
Correct.
I make a motion that we pass that. And is it a Cap Rock?
Mhm.
Yes, Cap Rock, 10-074.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Thank you.
And then
Go ahead.
managers, then we have our consent agenda. We have 2 permits on the consent agenda, one for approval and one with 7 Caprock items, ready for your consideration.
Madam Chair, we amended the agenda, but it's okay to go on with that. We were
We're
going to.
going to go
put
ahead with
after-
that first, and then we'll go on number 4.
And then we'll go back
Yep.
and do the consent agenda now?
Yeah, we'll do the consent agenda now.
Okay.
Okay. I entertain a motion. That'd be page 25, right?
That's correct.
Madam President, I'll move that we conditionally approve the pending receipt of changes for permits number 11015 and 11058.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Madam,
Oh, wait a minute.
they're 2 separate.
Oh, I
Oh,
see,
oh.
that's Caprock approval, my error. Thank you for helping me out.
Madam Chair, I would like to pull 11058 for the White Bear Center. I'd just like to see it laid out.
Okay, well then let's go ahead and finish off our approval on 11-015. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll go to 11058.
Thank you
Caprock.
very much.
All right. The layout, what they're proposing is the building addition in this corner. So they're proposing to add this new impervious and building addition. And there was an existing house in this location, they're removing that. So the parking lot, building addition, and then I believe this is a garage that they're moving over to this location. For BMPs on site, there's,
Could you orient me first, because I know I've been there for some plays. So
Okay.
where is I can't quite tell the roads, and is the house,
is-
which is, north is straight up, I assume?
north is straight up, this is Long Avenue. Let's take a look at,
Highway 61 would be right to the right of that. So Long Avenue.
Long Avenue's here,
Avenue
Highway
is,
61, a block or so over to the right.
No, it's actually access, long as like a service road,
Oh,
to,
yeah.
61 there.
Okay,
here's the site, this
yes,
is 61 along there, and this is long, right, along here.
yeah, okay, gotcha, yes.
This is actually a different site than the one that you might have gone to before.
Yeah,
because-
that other was like an old church.
Right, they're moving their center from that site to basically a driving school site. And
Oh,
it's right across the street from Rudy's,
Yeah.
and the Country Inn. And so
oh, yes,
they're just taking that existing site and changing it over for their uses.
okay. Okay, and I noticed all the rain gardens.
Mhm.
This is the site with that other house removed, and they're putting parking there.
Correct. So they're meeting the water quality volume control with the 3 rain gardens, and they also have a pervious pavement.
Okay, that's great, you don't have to go any further, appreciate it.
Okay, so we did have a motion and a second on the Caprock also. So any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we did change our agenda, so we will move now to number 4, which would have been a consider the final certificate for 2012 tax levy and budget.
Board President, Board of Managers, for your consideration, starting on, you'll see 119 in your packet. Pursuant to 103D, Board action on August 24th, 2011, serves as both the preliminary and final levy and budget certification to the county. That said, the counties have historically allowed districts to revise the submitted final levy on or before December 15th. If the board is not intended to make any changes to the budget and levy adopted on August 14th, no further action is required. If the board of managers wishes to make changes, it would require to make a proposed change. A motion would be required to make a proposed change, and if adopted, then a new resolution would need to be acted on at this meeting.
Madam Chair, I just want to say that I'd like to make a motion that we call this back. I was on the prevailing side, I'd like to recall this, the vote that we took at that time.
So you'd like to make a motion to reconsider?
Reconsider, I'd like a motion to reconsider, I can explain why.
We need a second. I'll second it.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded to reconsider. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, Council, can a person second the motion when they were not on the prevailing side?
Yes.
Madam Chair, Manager Ogata, yes.
Okay.
And to make the motion to reconsider that's on the floor. It's opportunity to explain why I want to reconsider, or do we have to vote on it right now?
First, we make a motion to,
Made a vote to
Yeah,
reconsider,
now
so
we
now we
vote
have to
that we
vote
re-
on it. Do we have can we discuss as to why I'm talking about reconsidering?
Madam President, Manager Hockey, discussion is in order as to the motion that's before you, which is whether or not to reconsider the action.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, the reason why I say it is that we passed this on August 24th, I believe, and we did it so that we could have it pre-certified so that the county would understand, all the counties would know what is coming. And assuming that there was going to be another discussion on it, I talked to the attorney beforehand, and I found out that the motion that we had made at that time says both the levy and the budget were approved. And I would like to just have a different vote on from what I did on that, because I thought there would be a chance at this time that we would be able to do it, and I heard that there isn't. So I'd like to just reconsider the vote.
okay, so we have
And
motions
that's why.
and a second to reconsider.
I'm confused as to what we're reconsidering, Madam President.
It's what we're
Are we
reconsidering.
reconsidering the budget? Are we reconsidering the
Right now, we're just reconsidering
levy,
the
or
vote.
what are we reconsidering?
Go ahead.
Madam President, Manager Waller, I would understand the motion to be to reconsider the vote on Resolution 2011-20, which adopted both the budget and the levies.
Correct. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair.
Sure.
So, just so I know how I should vote on this, what is it that you want to reconsider? Maybe that would help me.
I'd
No.
just like to be able to vote against it because of,
Vote
well-
against what? Oh.
I know. I would like to explain that after we see whether we're going to reconsider, because you can always,
First, we have to decide if
then
we
you'll vote
vote.
on the budget. We'll be voting on the budget again anyway. Just want to know if I can explain it after it's approved that I can reconsider
Okay,
it.
it's going to be hard for me to vote whether or not I'm going to want to reconsider if I don't know what we're going to reconsider, so.
I'd just like to move my vote from yes to no.
We're,
Because I thought I'd have an opportunity in December. There were some things that were discussed that did not get changed. I'm not changing the budget. I just want to have a no vote on it.
She wants the opportunity to vote no.
I just want to reconsider it because I want my name taken off
reflect
on
that it says-
approving, that I'm not approving the budget, the levy. The budget, I know it's going to go. That's not the issue. There's just some things that I wanted to point out that I don't go along with in the budget, personally.
okay. So what you're, I don't want to mischaracterize.
Yeah.
But you're saying ultimately you want to approve the budget, but you want to point out things in it that you don't like.
Since it's a package deal,
Uh-huh.
I want to vote against the resolution that accepts the budget and the fact that that's the levy on it. They go together.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to reconsider. We'll do a roll call. Waller?
No.
Ogata?
No.
Wagaman?
No.
Reiner, yes? Hockey?
Yes.
Fails.
All right. So the budget's passed. What I
The budget
object
and the levy
to,
both pass it.
yes, they both passed. Now, the reason why I was doing this,
misunderstood what I was doing there.
Okay,
Because I should have abstained from that.
okay, so we have an abstention and two,
'Cause you were
Well,
there.
the motion
Yeah.
fails regardless.
I
either
was
way,
not-
because it was,
Aye. You can.
so either way.
I
it's-
was not involved in it, and I should have abstained.
Okay. All right, so that would be the same anyway. So there is no reconsideration.
the reason that I wanted to do it is because I object to 71% that it's ad valorem taxes or 61% or anything. And I am going to, I don't want my name on the fact that I have voted yes to put that kind of, and I hope that this gets on every record, is that I do not approve on the high amount of ad valorem taxes that are on these water management plans. And in this case, there's just two of them in there on the budget. And it's 5362. I understand, because we discussed it at workshop, about the JD 415 that's going to happen, that there's going to be some ways that there can be money that's going to decrease our ad valorem, which is at 71%. So I understand that, but I have got to have it on record, somebody understands that I do not approve when we don't have some way or another that it justifies the cost benefit to the rest of the taxpayers. We are doing water management organizations and setting them up, water management plans. We're setting those up, but when those plans are being used as stormwater conveyance systems in benefiting those particular cities in that area, I do not approve of that, because every other community that we have had to do their own levying to take care of their own stormwater within their respective cities to control the quality of water and the quantity that goes out. I do not believe that the rest of this whole 27 cities, the 187, should pay for everybody else's storm sewer. That is the reason why I'm opposed to the budget that we have and the levy we're
And
doing.
make sure that that's clear on the record.
Yes, please. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
From there, we will go to the open mic. Is anybody in the audience that'd like to speak at this time?
But we need to certify again
No,
for the
they
county?
said that it was already done.
Right.
Okay. Then we will go ahead to page 34, which will be authorizing the final submittal of the amendment for the district water management plan.
Thank you, Board President, Board of Managers. We'll start on page 34, 35. At the December 7th meeting, in your packet for consideration is a resolution that authorizes the staff to submit the final draft RCWD water management plan, amendments to Bowser and the other state review agencies for the final 90-day review. The board, at its December 5th workshop and at its November 9th Board of Managers meeting, did review and concur with the responses and proposed changes that have been incorporated into the final draft water management plan amendments as attached. The public hearing was held on December 2nd today. With the board manager's authorization, this summary of comments that was concurred to, as well as the response to those comments with the official transcript of the public meeting and a copy of the water management plan amendments, and including changes from the responses to comments, will be sent to Bowser State Review Agencies to begin the 90-day final day review process. Staff recommends the board managers pass and adopt the attached resolution authorizing staff to submit the plan amendments, written comments received, approved minutes of the public hearing, and a summary of changes incorporated into the plan amendments as a result of the local and preliminary state review process.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion for resolution number 2011-31.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to have the Board of Managers approve the proposed amendments, the WMP, and direct staff in accordance with the Minnesota statutes to submit the proposed final amendment to the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil and other state review agencies for final consideration. We have a motion second. Further discussion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Again, it's the very same thing, and we had talked about this in workshop, and I was assured, and somewhere on record, I'd like Mark to be able to state this again. We have in this plan, we have repair of ditch 102232, Anoka County ditch 31, County ditch 46, and ditch 5362. In each one of those cases, in the 102232, it's proposed that the ad valorem is going to be 0.71% by everybody in the whole district. It's proposed on 8031 that it's going to be 60%, that the water management district is not going to exceed 60% of the cost. We don't know exactly what it's going to end up being, but the rest will be ad valorem. Same thing with 8046 and AC 5362. And in each one of those cases, I object to the amount that's put in here, and it's in here, and it's underlined the exact amount that is going to be charged. Now, according to Mr. Dutchman, he did tell us that this is just a placeholder, I think. It doesn't mean that this is what it's going to cost. Maybe you can explain it, and I'd like that to assure me that this is not set in cement, that it's going to be ad valorem at some of those costs.
Yeah, Madam President, Manager Hockey, first of all, the proportions are established by the board, not by the engineer. So whatever those proportions are, those are based on your vote. So clearly, I make a recommendation as to what I think those should be based on the features of the project. But ultimately, that proportion is a policy decision on your part. The only one that has been considered, to my knowledge, based on my own work so far, is 10/22/32. That proportion split was brought to the board, was discussed. As the engineer, what we did was we put each of the project features into a category based on what we believe the benefit to be. Whether that benefit is to the local landowner as a drainage benefit, whether that benefit is to the municipality as to serve as their stormwater outlet, or whether that has some public benefit. Whether that public benefit is, improved ecological integrity, as the case of JD4 where we're doing a wetland restoration, or it could be a water quality benefit. In accordance with the board's wishes, generally what has happened is any municipal benefit and any local drainage benefit has been paid for by the water management district. It varies from project to project, of course, depending on the features. So the plan is written, with the exception of 10/22/32, where the board has entertained a formal memo and decided by policy what those percentages should be. These amendments are written to give the board the flexibility to change those proportions for 3146 and 5362. And that's why it's written as not more than a certain percent. Now, I guess if the board decided that it was going to be more than that percent, then we should revise this language. But based on your history, what I did in amending the language for the plan was to try to create some flexibility in there for the board to have that future discussion. I would anticipate that when those repair projects come forward, it's up to the board, of course, but you would follow the same process. And if you recall, as district engineer, we prepare a memo. And again, we outline the different features of the project and we put them in 3 pots, if it's municipal benefit, local drainage benefit, or public benefit. And then the board debates those and decides what that proportion is that's paid for using ad valorem funds for the public benefit versus the water management district for the local benefit. So hopefully that addressed your question. If not, I'd be happy to make another run at it.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
what the complaint is about is the cost of the wetland replacement. And it's an inequity according to the Minnesota Appellate Court. And we've determined that this concept that the state has adopted of no net loss, meaning you can't lose 1 square inch of wetland at all, and that they have to be replaced. Those are large costs, and those are the public benefits. And it's, as the court said, for the landowners that are on the ditch systems there to replace, it'd be a considerable expense to replace the wetlands. We are left with the apparent gap in legislation that we have no authority to fill, but in the interest of fairness ought to be addressed by the legislature. And that basically is what we're going to talk about this afternoon at a workshop with the legislators, is to help to reduce that cost. Now, as all of the board members know, I personally think the Wetland Conservation Act should be repealed, but I'm in a minority. I believe it is one huge, massive tax that is unfair. And I think that that's the only way I look at it. And that's what we do. When we go to repair our ditches and make our transformation from agriculture to suburban areas, these individuals that own properties on there would face massive expenses, which the appellate court recognized that huge cost program. So that's where the public benefit comes in, and the public benefit is an ad valorem tax. And Manager Hockey objects to paying an ad valorem tax for the public benefit of retaining the wetlands. Instead, she wants to do basically nothing. That results in law and flooding, doesn't have us for flood control for our communities, and it allows nothing to happen. It just stifles it. And the best example I can think of is that there isn't a new Viking stadium over in Blaine. And one of the reasons was the wetland issues and the cost of that and how to put it in. And so this is the way the current law requires the board to manage the drainage system and make the transition. I don't think it's good. I don't even think the proposal we're going to make this afternoon is adequate. My viewpoint is that we should be exempted, that all drained lands ought to be exempted from that, period. But because of this compliance for the wetland issues, well, there is just tremendous cost, and that's a public cost that has to be bore by more than just the landowners, as the court recognized. But we need to go to the legislature and resolve the problem, and until then, we have this huge ad valorem commitment to maintaining the public interest in no net loss of wetlands.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I did not mention wetlands. I meant stormwater conveyance systems. And if you look at number 6, page 6-20 and 6-21, there's one thing that says the future need in doing these particular plans of municipalities to use legal drainage system as a system for conveying stormwater as land becomes fully developed. That is what we're doing, a hybrid approach. On 6-21, it's within areas that have or are urbanizing. The public drainage system should be preserved as an open channel conveyance system to serve the present and future municipal stormwater system. Preserving the legal drainage system as an open channel conveyance system avoids assessment against the original benefited property for the installation of a storm sewer system along the public drainage system. I am saying, and there's more I can go in here, but the cities that are using these waterways an outlet for storm sewer water, that, to me, is for that water management district to take care of, because it's taking care of the stormwater that's coming out of whatever city at the time that we're doing this. And basically, it's been Anoka County, and there's some over in Washington, but it has to do with Forest Lake, Columbus, Blaine, everybody that's doing it and using these systems as their stormwater conveyance systems. And I maintain that in other cities within our district, they have done their own stormwater, they have contained it, they had assessment against their cities, all those benefited property owners, and that is what I oppose to. Nothing to do with anything to do with the wetlands, only using it as stormwater conveyance systems. And that's what I see prevalent in this plan. That is the reason why I oppose some of the thing, because that's why I don't like 60% or 70%, and this 70% we're going to get some back, because we're going to do, that is dealt with wetland mitigation. That is not the issue. That is benefiting everybody. But I am opposed to us paying, the rest of us paying for stormwater conveyance systems when all the cities have already done it themselves. That's my
Madam
objection.
President?
Wait a minute.
No,
Manager
Harley.
O'Gara.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Manager
Harley,
O'Gara.
I didn't see you.
I mean, I think, Madam President, at this time, what we're really dealing with is how wording in the policy, and I think Manager Hockey just wants to be sure that when the time comes, she'll have the right to voice opposition to a high ad valorem tax. So, I mean, I think the only language that I see in this that could cause some consternation for that deals with the up to 60% language. So, I mean, if you find 60% too limiting right now, we could change that language so that eliminating the up to 60% and just say in accordance, or I actually have an amendment that would do that. And then when the time comes, we're going to debate this out then. You know what I mean? We're going to have a good debate when in the next one, whether there be 5362 or whatever it is.
I'll only accept cost-benefit analysis on it.
Yeah, okay, but that
Within that
debate will
water
come when we actually debate over what the percentage is going to be for the new project, right? So, I mean, I guess, if you're objecting to the up to
Where's your
60% language, we could just do this. Okay, I'm looking on page 93, which is where the 60% language.
Before you do that, Harley, Mark had a comment.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Madam President, and forgive my poor writing skills in writing this amendment, but
No, you've done great.
actually, just to clarify, what this actually says, if you look under the estimated cost portion,
What page are you on, Mark?
on page 93.
Okay.
On 714 of the amendment, page 93 of the packet.
Okay.
What this actually says is that, there's a couple things I want to point out.
Second paragraph.
Second
Okay.
paragraph, under estimated cost, you'll says, the engineer's opinion of the probable cost for the project is an estimated $590,000. No more than 60% of the cost will be paid for by revenue through the water management district. So what this actually says is up to 60% of the total project can be paid for using the local charge, not ad valorem, the local charge.
I understand.
And again, I wrote it that way because the board had been typically in the 40% range for the local versus 60 ad valorem. So I wrote it with a 20% buffer, so to speak, for you to have this discussion continuing in the future. So that's the first thing I want to point out. The second thing that I want to be very clear about, the municipal benefit in everything the district has done to date has not been paid for by ad valorem, or by the ad valorem component. When we did JD4 and when we've done 102232, the increase in the channel characteristics or any feature that was construed as having a municipal benefit either currently to developed lands or in the future, the board has always put that in the local payment pot. It's always gone in the water management district pot. What has gone in the public benefit pot are those things related to, as Manager Waller mentioned, wetland mitigation. In the case of water quality improvement, we have put that in the public pot as a public benefit. We have put the restoration, for example, of Hool and JD4 in the public pot because of the ecological benefits derived from it. So I just want to be clear, we have, you as a board to date, certainly you can change it, but so far you have never put any municipal or private benefit in that ad valorem pot. And that's the way this is written further down under methods for determining charges. This describes the method that you anticipate using. Under that method for determining charges, second paragraph and third paragraph, it walks through that process that you memorialized both on JD4 and on 1022, where you are doing that benefit cost analysis on a case-by-case basis and looking at those project features and deciding, nope, this is a locally derived benefit or a landowner benefit, it's a private benefit, it should not be paid for by ad valorem, versus, yes, we agree this is a public benefit and it is being considered to be paid for by ad valorem. So hopefully that helps your discussion.
Madam President.
Yes.
On other tools that we have here in the watershed district, we use ad valorem funding to benefit municipal stormwater. One of those is rain gardens that we're putting in over in Mounds View currently. Another one is the upcoming, we had the discussion yesterday with the mayor of St. Anthony. We're going to work on making sure the flooding doesn't reoccur on the Ramsey County 2 system, which is all ad valorem systems. So using ad valorem taxes to improve municipal stormwater is not an uncommon practice in this district. And we are going to have done it in the past, and I expect we're going to do it in the future. So I don't find that any policy change.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
St. Anthony came into us and it's a water quality situation. They are going to ditch something and dredge a particular mirror pond that they're going to try to store some water, but we did not solve their flooding situation, and we're not paying for it ad valorem. They were asking for cost sharing, and they're also asking for a variance from what some of our rules were. So some of the things you say blanketly are not correct. But going back to what you had said, Mark, Anoka County is right now paying 28% of the tax. We're paying, Ramsey County pays 51%, Washington is 19%. So when you look at, we have here for the certification appropriate levies, net tax capacity per distribution, Ramsey County is paying most of this. And when you consider that we, and because of WACA, anytime there's any redevelopment done, we have to start trying to do things to control water and help take care of the quantity and quality of that water. And it gets a lot more expensive to have to do it in a retrofit thing than it does when you can do it from scratch, which is happening in our maintenance organization here, the plans. And the quotes that you gave on 7-14, estimated cost methods for determining charges, you use that sort of as a boilerplate for all the 4 different ones, and it's the same wording and everything. My issue too is that if there's no more than 60% that's going to be applied in those cases that you've got listed here, and you've given estimate cost for the project at $590,000, we don't know when we start any of that if the $590,000 is going to be what that cost could be. Right now, I imagine with the way that people are asking for work, it could be somewhere in there or even less. And I understand that's 40% ad valorem and 60. I'm not arguing that much with it, but the 60, saying it is going to be limited to $354,000, and each case there's a different limit because you've given different costs to what the projects would be. I don't like the idea that it ends up where it states that it's going to be limited to that. If that project comes in at $900,000 and it's limited at $354,000, that changes it, and all of a sudden the ad valorem is higher. Now, I know you're talking about municipal stormwater conveyance systems, and you were saying that this is all worked out. And yes, perhaps I know, when you brought it up and discussed it, that's where the board went, but I still have objected to it, and I'll continue to object to it, and I'll have Ramsey County object to it, because we have 51% of the cost that's going to be used to be paying for this. Thank you.
Sure. Madam
Okay.
President and managers, that number is totally your discretion. It has nothing to do with engineering. It's totally a policy decision on your part. And if you wish to change it, it's certainly open to change.
Madam President, I have an amendment to offer, and it's like I said, I think this discussion is very appropriate, but in the right time, you know, and so,
This is not.
I think, here's my proposed amendment, I think that would, eliminate some of the problems here. On that, on page 93, second paragraph, where it says the engineer's opinion of probable cost, you know, that third sentence? Okay, keep the engineer's opinion of probable cost for the project is an estimated 590,000 and, okay, and cross out no more than 60% of that. And then cross out the figure 354,000, okay? And add the right after, and it is an estimated 590,000 and, so it'd be the cost, and then add that will be paid for by the revenue collected through the ACD 31 WMD, and then add will be determined by Board of Manager vote and in accordance with district policy. Okay?
That's good.
That-
And that'll go on all of these.
Yeah, and
for
that-
this
and
one,
that-
Because
and
we've
that-
got costs on all of these.
Right.
All right. And the reason why I think this is the place for it is because we're passing this on for comments from everybody. And I'm not asking for it to be rewritten, but I do believe at this point in time is the time to make comments on what we're doing. I agree with that, and it would go through each one of these different water
Well,
management districts.
the 31, 46, 53, 62, the ones that we haven't done yet, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that what they'll say is, we'll keep the estimated cost at whatever is underlined, because it gives an estimated cost of those particular projects. And then go on to say some of the things you say, where you eliminate the 60%
Yeah, so,
on the rest of
let me,
them.
Madam Chair, let me read the whole thing as it would be then.
You had the motion, who had the second?
Oh, okay.
Second,
You were the second. Oh, wait a minute, I'm talking on our first motion. We already have a motion on the table.
this is an amendment then.
That's
This
an
would be
amendment.
An amendment, okay, so you're going to make the
Harley's
amendment.
making the
Okay.
amendment,
You're
and
gonna-
I will second it.
Okay,
So a sentence would read, the engineer's opinion of probable cost for the project is an estimated 590,000, and the cost that will be paid for by the revenue collected through the ACD 31 WMD will be determined by Board of Manager vote and in accordance with district policy.
okay, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any further discussion?
I think that do you want to do it each one separately on each watershed district? Because it is the same
I
wording
think,
that's
you
going to
know,
apply.
I think my motion is intended to be for
Carry through all.
31, 46, and 53, 62.
And 46, 31, and
53,
53,
62.
62.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor for the amendment. We'll do it by roll call. Waller?
No.
Hockey?
Yes.
Ogata?
Yes.
Wageman?
No.
Kreiner? No. Motion fails. Okay, now we have the resolution on the floor.
That's a dangerous amendment. It could go to 90%.
So right now, we have back on the
That's
floor
right, that's right.
Resolution 2011-31. We've already been through discussions, so we'll go with the vote. Waller?
Yes, send in the current language as it is unamended.
Hockey?
No.
Ogata?
Yes.
Wageman?
Yes.
Kreiner, yes. Okay, motion passes and it moves on. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is Kyle, I believe. Page 110.
Board President, I believe, consider RCWD legislative
sorry.
language number 2. That's
That's next
okay.
one. Yeah, I missed it, page 101.
All right. Board President, Board of Managers, pursuant to the discussion previously and consistent with the discussion at the workshop on November 7th, as well as discussion last Monday, December 5th, 2011, and pursuant to follow-up from a meeting December 14th with Board and Senator Vanderveer, Engelbrechtson, Representative Detmer, and legislative staff. Please find the attached proposed RCWD legislation prepared in consultation with local legislative representatives. As you are aware, this legislation proposes a pilot legislation which allows district to mitigate, and that's changed from your page 102 slightly, and we'll talk about that, consistent with state mitigation requirements. Staff requests board review of the attached information and consideration and board action of the attached resolution. Before you, you have a revised, that was passed out before the meeting, proposed legislative language, and a revised resolution 2011-32. The changes from the packet in the handed out document, you will note on the back page, the House Research page, which is a folded out legal sheet, dated December 5th, 2011, 12:12 p.m. The areas that to note as revisions are as followed. Under number section 1A, 1, the three areas that would, this would allow watershed district to replace wetland impacts as a result of planned water management projects include drainage system repairs using the following replacement siting priority order. Number 1, with concurrence with governing board of a local county or watershed district within a county or watershed district whose county water plan, watershed management plan, or other water resource implementation plan contains wetland restoration as a means of implementation. 2, with the concurrence of the Commissioner of Natural Resources on lands administered by the Commissioner in accordance with paragraph B. And 3, throughout the state in areas determined to possess less than 80% of the pre-settlement acreage. That was a revision based on comments and discussion at a November 30th meeting with Director Jaski and Bowser's staff. The board order, you'll note on the second page of what was passed out, references that, and then whereas that the 12-5-11 House Research document that we just referenced in the resolution, the order references directs staff with assistance of the consultants to forward the draft resolution to propose bill sponsors Vanderveer and Detmer for action. The board further it asks for assistance. It directs staff to continue to work on the potential bill with the bill sponsors and affected agencies and parties to resolve issues related to draft legislation. It talks about working with the administrator working to initiate a possible comprehensive wetland plan amendment as suggested by Bowser senior staff as a administrative dual option as discussed on November 30th and will be further discussed today. And then finally, the legislative initiative and possible administrative process shall be proceed concurrently until such time as the Board of Managers determines that one of the others should cease.
Okay. We need a motion.
Madam President, I'll move Resolution 2011-32, approving the draft language for the pilot program allowing alternative wetland replacement siting in cooperation with the Department of Natural Resources to restore wetlands on department-managed property, directing initiation of administrative forces to amend the WCP MPs to allow for alternative wetland replacement siting.
Okay. Need a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Madam President, first of all, although the title doesn't imply specifically say so, these sightings could be done outside of Department of Natural Resources properties, as I understand. They could be done in private properties that may be available. I think that that needs to be clear. This just isn't an off-budget funding of a Department of Natural Resources recreational programs in other parts of the state. And second, I'd point out, I have a strong opinion about the Wetland Conservation Act, and I'm going to vote in favor of this today, but I'm going to declare that I'm voting in favor, and I'm assuming that's the majority, just for the purpose of being able to recall this language at a later time, because I don't think it's strong enough. I would prefer to have Rice Creek Watershed District, as I said last year, or earlier this year, I should say, exempted from this, or if from the Wetland Conservation Act, because as the appellate court has stated, it's extremely unfair to expect those landowners that are turning these ditches systems into municipal stormwater situations to bear the brunt of cost of the replacement, and that there's a gap in the legislation. And this doesn't really solve the gap. What it does is it limits the impact of the gap, and I prefer mostly to resolve the gap situation. But I realize I'm in probably an extreme minority position on that in the general public at this time, and so I will vote in favor of it, but with the reserve the right to recall the vote later on in case we want to change the language.
Madam President,
Go ahead.
I would like to say I agree pretty much exactly with what John just said, but I am going to vote for it too.
You gotta speak up in your mic a little
I'm
more,
sorry.
Steve.
Want me to repeat
Yeah,
that?
repeat that.
I
Does he
agree
have his mic?
pretty much exactly with what John just said, but I will vote for it too.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, we'll do roll call. Waller?
Yes?
Aki?
No.
Ogata?
Aye.
Wagaman?
Yes.
Reiner, aye. And we move forward with that and further discussions this afternoon at 1:30. Okay, now we're to the 2012 USWR program authorization. That'd be Kyle. Page 110.
Madam President, members of the board, it's now time to seek authorization for the 2012 Urban Stormwater Remediation Cost Share Program. As you see in my memo, we've run this program for 4 years now. We've made several changes after the first couple years of implementation. I don't have any major changes this year. You'll see in the memo a proposed timeline of releasing the RFP and subsequent reviews of applications with our goal of selecting applicants, or final selection of applicants with the public hearing on May 9th of 2012. Notice to applicants of on May 16th, which is approximately the same schedule as last year. One note, or two notes that I would like to point out. One that has occurred on just this past Monday. The City of Lino Lakes was in 2011 was awarded a grant for up to $40,000 for a project on Lamont Drive. And since that time, they've had a change in the city engineer. And on Monday, I just received a notice that they are withdrawing that application. They don't foresee the ability to implement that project in the next 2 years. And so that $40,000 would more or less be released back into the pot, which would alter, in the RFP and other materials here, I've got, we were planning on about $145,000 available for project implementation in 2012. That would be then modified to $185,000. So the idea there being we potentially could, select another, an additional project if warranted. Obviously, that'd be up for, if the board wants to then make other adjustments, that's up to you, but that's how it would go as of today, is that would make that $185,000. And also with that, one minor change I do have in the program guidelines, I'll point out under number 4, this is on page 113 in your packet, item number 4, under cost share agreement and schedule. I added one sentence in here that I think will make these sorts of situations less likely, or we'll know about them more in advance. I've added a statement that, obviously we have to enter these cost share agreements. On the second line, at the end of the second line, it starts, if an executed agreement is not received by the district before what would be July 31st, 2012, encumbered funds will become unencumbered and available for reallocation. Basically, we've never had a deadline by which cities or applicants need to return a signed agreement to us. We had never received one from Lino Lakes. If we give them a deadline, I think we'll know about this sort of situation ahead of time, so we're not dealing with it at the very end of the
Good
year.
idea.
So that gives them a couple of months to get an agreement into us.
Okay.
But other than that, staff would support the project and recommend authorization for 2012.
I'm just, would like to propose the idea of just reducing the budget to 100,000 and put the other funding back into our general fund for use in other areas. Instead of upping it to include the extra 40,000, I think we should reduce it by that much, fund for 100,000.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
You remind the board that we reduced this once before, I think 2 years ago. It was reduced actually pretty significantly, and since that time, we've actually had an increased number of requests. Not requests, but requests. And I think the ideal was we were trying to promote, more and varied applicants to come forward, and I'm not sure this is the right year for this. I mean, I think we could go through the year, see what projects we got coming forward, and then kind of review this again at the budget here, discussions
Well,
next
seeing
year.
a 26% increase in our budget and levy, I think we need to look at every way we can to reduce it.
Madam Chair, if you're thinking about having anything transferred over anywhere, we've in our Southwest Urban Lake Study, we've gone down to only a preliminary approved budget of now putting in some $60,000, 65. We at one time had 165. We took it down and we keep reducing it, and then we went in the 2011, we had it 75,000. And now we're down to 65,000. So if you're thinking of taking it and putting it somewhere else, I'd like it in the Southwest Urban Lake Improvement Project place instead. We had it 165,000 and now we're down to only 65,000 there. So I think that's where I'd like to see it go, if you're going to do that, if the board is.
John?
Madam President, it's correct about the reduction over the years, and the basis for reducing it was the money wasn't being used. So therefore, we put the money someplace else to be used. And that was the idea of it. We had said at the time that we'd increase it if demand was back. It was just a demand issue as far as maybe my memory's incorrect here. But I think that's basically what we did. And so I would just say that we leave it alone at the moment and see how it goes. If there's demand for it out there, fine. If there isn't, then it's someplace else. It's using ad valorem tax money to help out urban stormwater remediation. And I think that's the reason we had it at one time, 200,000 or something like that, it seems to me. Or even more, was it 3? Yeah, something. Anyways, we just had this extra money sitting there that we put in to work in other places. Budgets are adjustable. They're not written in stone. And so that's the way I'd look at it, just leave it be.
Madam President, just to clarify, if you would, Kyle.
Sure.
The current budget's 145, is that correct?
Madam President,
Right.
Mark, the proposed 2012 budget allocation was 140,000, and that it's a dedicated fund, so that gets added to carryover, if you will. And I think we
Correct.
had about 9,000 or so, give or take, of carryover, some of which is for legal and engineering expense. But we were right around 145,000 that would be available for projects. So last year, Lino Lakes aside, we did utilize more or less the full allocated budget for projects last year.
Okay.
There were several projects that were denied for various reasons.
But again, to clarify, that additional 40,000 from Lino that's turned back would bring potentially the pot to 185, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Bill?
Just two budgetary pieces of information. The 2011 budget was budgeted at 160,000. The now approved 2012 budget is 140,000, a reduction of 12.5%. Just a piece of information.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to authorize staff to initiate the 2012 Urban Stormwater Remediation Cost Share Program and to notify known potential applicants of funding availability by publishing a request for proposals.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Let's do a roll call. Waller?
Yes?
Bogata?
Yes.
Whalen?
Yes.
Kreiner, no. Aki?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Motion passes. Okay, we are the channel management policy. Bill?
We're rolling.
We're over the rocks, now we're heading
Mr.
down.
President, I believe we have a new number for the 2012 proposed Houston Engineering Incorporated fee schedule.
Okay,
This is a new item as per the revised approved agenda. You'll find it in the information passed out before the meeting as a separate item. As you will recall, on Monday, last Monday, December 5th, the board considered the Houston Engineering request for 2012 fee schedule. As you'll note from the table as passed out, Houston is proposing average 2.7% increase from 2011 rates when considering the professional classification categories the district uses the most, shown in yellow on the attachment. You'll also note the volume discount remains of 10%. Staff would make the following observations, that there was positive performance evaluations that were provided by staff and board managers in November last month. Secondly, that the 2012 RCWD, the rates are roughly similar to the rate schedules of other firms. Houston's are similar to other firms in the district's professional services engineering pool. Also, the request is less than the Social Security Administration cost of living. Based on the above-mentioned observations and based on the board's discussion at December 5th board workshop, staff would recommend approval of the attached amendment to the extension of the engineer's service agreement authorized by Houston Engineering. One thing you'll note new in the attachment you didn't see on Monday is second page of what was handed out, amendment to extend to the engineering services agreement. And that would be what you'd be authorizing at this time for your consideration at this time.
thank you. Entertain a
Madam
motion.
Chair.
Yep.
I move to approve and authorize the administrator to sign the attached amendment to the extension to engineering services agreement and authorize Houston Engineering to provide services for 2012 pursuant to the fee and expenses schedule dated November 1st, 2011, that is attached to this amendment.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. I think we will go with a roll call on this. Is further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Further discussion. I'm going to vote against this because it's a 2.7% increase, and he had about a 3% last year, and at this point in time, there are all cities and many agencies that have frozen their budgets. I believe that they could operate for the next year without having an increase in their fees to Rice Creek Watershed District.
Okay, and part of that discussion is I also am going to vote against it, just because, to be consistent with my policy, that we should not be increasing anything in this district. So with that, we'll call for a vote. Waller?
Yes.
Hockey?
No.
Ogata?
Aye.
Wageman?
Yes.
And Priner? No. Okay. We shall move on.
Board President, Board of Managers, before you, starting on page 125, is a item we discussed at the November 7th board workshop. Please find before you attached to this memo is RCWD Natural Channel Management Policy. Staff also discussed the proposed policy with Anoka and Ramsey County Park staff on November 10th, and there was concurrence that the district proposed approach is as defined in the policy was generally acceptable by those park staff. As you will note, the policy on page 127 pertains to maintenance of channel capacity and bank erosion. Also pertains to maintenance of pertaining to recreational uses and maintenance related to property owner considerations. As discussed, there also is a map identifying these locations where this would be a relevant policy on page 129. For your consideration.
Thank you. Now we'll entertain a motion. That would be to accept our Rice Creek Water Natural Channel Management Policy.
I move to accept the RCWD Natural Channel Management Policy contained in a memo dated November 21st, 2011.
Okay?
Second?
Need a second? Do you have a second? Discussion. Anybody like any discussion? Anybody? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, our calendar for 2012, we have to approve.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
because there's question marks here in March for the MAUD legislative session, on Wednesday night, it's going to be held on March 7th. You can fill that in where the question marks are, and the next one, it can be 3/8.
Would you repeat that,
Repeat that, please, yeah.
Under March,
Yep.
where the question marks for MAUD, it's 3/7, legislative session at 7 to 9, Kellyanne, and it's 3/8 for the one that has to do the
Oh,
breakfast.
the breakfast, okay.
So that's the 3/8.
We just
Okay.
had that decided.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. You need a motion to approve legislative? Go ahead.
Do you want to switch?
Yeah, I would make a friendly amendment that probably won't need a vote, but if I could just switch January and February with Manager Wagaman, so I'd take January and Manager Wagaman would take February, and then keep the rest of it the same.
Okay, any other changes?
And as long as he doesn't protest here.
Okay, we need a motion to accept the calendar.
So move to accept the calendar as amended.
Second.
Motion made second, and any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that now for the
Aye.
calendar? We had the amendment? Or
Oh,
we
that
had
was
to-
just a friendly-
Okay, we're all done, all right.
That was
Let's go, move on.
We already did that.
Yep, I'm
Okay.
a little
we-
slow down here in the W end, end of the alphabet.
Long Lake Inlet Dredging Project pay request. Bill?
Board President, Board of Managers, before you is project payment request number 1 for the Long Lake Inlet Channel Project. And you'll find attached to this cover memo is a HEI memo dated November 11th. As you'll note, as discussed at the December 5th workshop, there are some remaining questions. With this, you can see that information as discussed at the workshop on the 5th. And Houston's recommending payment that applies to reduction of 820 cubic yards, as we discussed previously, of material that have not been dredged below the estimated quantity of 3,100. Staff has reviewed the memo and, given the project circumstances, as reported to the board at the December 5th workshop, would agree with the HEI recommendation, authorize $725.84 to make payment 1 to Bel Air for the completed work under this pay request.
Madam Chair, what's the amount then we're withholding then? Is that just the difference between the?
And I'll ask Mark to help me out, but that's the 5% retainage, plus the remaining undredged, which is the 32,791, all on page 134 of your packet.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move to authorize the payment of $138,725.84 as payment number 1 to Bel Air Excavation Incorporated for work completed under this payment request, and authorize the board president to sign the payment certification form.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Madam President, just to add very briefly, we are going to be drafting a letter to the contractor here this week to send to kind of memorialize the discussion we had at the workshop on Monday. That being that Rice Creek's unwilling to pay for remobilization to the site. We are going to issue a change order to extend the substantial completion date so they can come back next spring. We are going to notify Ramsey County Parks of that change in substantial completion date per your memorandum of agreement with them. We are going to communicate that they must dredge to the planned depth, and that there will be some reconsideration if additional material is accumulated between essentially this fall and next spring for payment. And those are the main things, that dredging would occur at the current contract price, or any additional payment would occur at the current unit prices. And that Rice Creek will not pay for survey essentially next spring to determine the difference in quantities. Okay, so that'll be going out hopefully yet this week.
Go ahead, Bill.
Board President, Board of Managers, starting on page 140, you'll find cover memo and a Houston memo dated November 23rd, 2011, related to the payment 1 for the Westmore Lake Green Water Garden Water Quality Project. Staff has reviewed the HEI memo and agree with the recommendation to authorize payment $51,584.05 to Cobalt for work completed.
Madam President, I'll move the authorize the payment of $51,584.05 as payment number one to Cobalt Contracting Incorporated for work completed under this pay request and authorize the board president to sign the payment certification form.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in
Madam
favor?
Chair,
Oops,
just a
sorry.
question. Want to ask, what was our, when we're paying this at 51,000 and it's for work that was completed up that for the first payment to the Cobalt Contracting, were we doing 25% on this total?
Madam Chair, Barb Huckey, this is, it's a, trying to think how we're about half on this. We have a state grant, a Clean Water Partnership grant for this project, so we're working in partnership with the city and the school, but this is a Rice Creek Watershed District project.
Okay, and was
So-
the grant one-on-one? for what we
The
contributed
grant,
with
the grant
stimulus?
requires 50% match.
Okay.
I'm going off the top of my head here. There's construction costs, there's engineering costs, so on the actual construction line item, I'm not sure how, if it's 50/50 exactly on that particular line in the project budget, but overall, will be, I think just would be at or right around 50%, I think. I don't
Okay.
have the numbers in front of me.
Good, there's a grant involved, thank you.
Madam President, board members, if you do get a chance to swing by it, I looked at it the other day. It looks pretty nice. Contractor's got it all graded up, and I think he has the mulch down now for protection. But the feedback I've got, both indirectly through Greg Bowles, who's our construction manager, and this from Kyle and Greg's own observations, that the contractor's done a real nice job on this project. So
Yeah, I would echo that. We actually got, well, I should say the contractor got a written compliment from the city on the concrete work for the sidewalk replacements and the flumes that take the runoff into the rain gardens. They've really done a great job. And the fact that they actually were able to get the work done before winter hit was kind of, a pleasant surprise, so.
Do we have pictures of the progress of this, that it could be put together? Because I really always plug the idea that you can put it together and put it on YouTube, have a link to it, so we can show something from beginning to end and show what happens to the money, which helps the legislature out as far as what they think that we do with things and what the outcomes are. So it'd be good if you could put that together and have a link at our site.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it'll go directly on our website as one of our highlighted projects.
Madam
That's a winter project for me to get some of that work done.
Good, thank you.
Madam President, Westmore Lake's in a very public observation, easily observed by the public, isn't it?
Yes,
Doesn't
it is.
Central Avenue run right through the middle here?
Yep, yeah, when we're on the the west side of the lake with this project, but
But so it's not easily, it's on Westmore Lake, it's on the extreme west side.
it's on the west side. Yeah, it's basically right at Fridley Middle School, which there's a
Is there-
large amount
well,
of public exposure here.
Any publicity gained by
Signage?
having a sign?
Absolutely, and that's in the plans as part of the grant project
Thank you.
to put up some signage at the site as well.
Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next thing we have is the fund balance policy. Phil?
Board President, Board of Managers, as discussed at the December 5th workshop, proposed to you, starting on 151, is a policy that was highly recommended by our auditors at HLB to assist the district in compliance with the Gadsby General Accounting Standards Board's new recent changes in accounting classification and standards. As you will note, it identifies that the district will maintain an unassigned general fund balance not less than 40% of the budget, and also appropriates for a minimum fund balance shall be required for the approval of the Board of Managers if it's ever over that percent, and that the policy defines that the district will use funds assigned in a priority order, first with the classification of unassigned and then assigned. Based on the advice recommendation of the district auditor, staff recommends approval of the attached proposed general fund balance policy.
Need a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair, just sort of to follow up, because we were also talking about a fund balance, and we use Hodges Redpath. I was speaking to somebody up at the MAUD convention, and they had gotten quotes on the people that are handling their budgetary things, all the checks and everything, as we do with Hodges Redpath. They found that they were getting a $6,000 quote from them, and they hired another firm at $4,500. So do we do anything where we look at it? I know after the first of the year, I think we redetermine who's our public, that we're going to put all our notices in, we do our banks, we do everything. Is there a way that we could maybe kick off some way of exploring costs are from another agency, another group that we can use than Hodges? And maybe we'll take them, but maybe to let them know that they are in competition and maybe we can control some costs?
Board President, Board of Managers, as you will recall, a year ago, this month actually, the board considered and approved a 2-year extension to the accounting and auditing services of HLB. So at approximately this time next year will be the opportunity the board will have to consider that particular pool element, or excuse me, that contract element for your accounting services.
Madam Chair, there was another time when we had agreements with an engineering firm, attorneys, et cetera, and we moved it up a whole year by the fact that we did do some interviewing and everything, and regardless of the 2-year contract or 3 or whatever we had with anybody, we lopped a year off. So if there'd be a way that you would still explore right now and let them HLB or TB or whatever they are, where you let them know that we are looking at it, and if we find something by the middle of the year even, that we can save some money, I would still like it to know that they've
It
got some
certainly doesn't
competition.
go back in and talk to them about the pricing.
Even though we did a
Yeah.
2-year contract, we've broken it before on a contract. That's what, I don't know what the rest of the board says, but when I
I-
found out there was
I
a
have no
saving
problem
of
with
some
researching it.
$1,800, I thought that,
Well, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
What we should do before we actually engage in the process and spending the time is that we should get advice as to whether or not the contract is binding on us for 2 years or not. I mean,
okay,
If there's a
and I
clause in
understand
there.
that, you're an attorney, I understand that, but we did do that on other
Sure, I mean, but
contracts before
a
in the
contract
past.
can be written with an out in a year. So, I mean, we can just run it by Lewis and probably
Okay.
take him about 2 minutes and that'd be about it.
Could tell
It's
us
just
whether-
a safety check, he's
Yes,
suggesting.
yes.
And he's not
Yes.
suggesting.
Before we get too far down the road on
Yeah,
it.
he's not suggesting, he says, check this first, and then if we get
I agree.
a correct, then we'll proceed with the next step,
All right, I agree.
prices.
Makes sense.
Everything, yeah, that makes sense.
That was just adding it in, so it's a consensus, at least
It's a
to check
consensus
that
to move that on.
contract.
Yep. Next thing we have is the 2011 check register resolution authorizing the treasurer approval. That'd be resolution 2011-33.
Madam President, I'll move to Resolution 2011-33, Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers authorizes for the payment of December 2011 check register.
Second,
We have motion and second. Discussion? Any discussion?
Well, even though he's been on a short time, I have full faith in his abilities to make sure that this is done correctly.
That is paid, and everybody gets paid.
Well, there is a safety check in the resolution. It says, therefore, resolve, the Board of Managers authorizes the treasurer to review and approve the payment of December 28, 2011, the check register amount not to exceed $325,000. So,
And we
So-
are working on this. We are,
Okay, so we'll call for a vote. Waller,
yes,
Aki,
yes.
Ogata.
Yes.
Wagman,
yes.
Kreiner, yes. Motion passes. Okay, anybody have any questions about staff reports?
We
Anything?
have to approve the check register right now, or?
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please.
yes.
Okay, yes, we need
Okay,
a
the staff
motion to
report. Otherwise, they won't
approve the check
report.
register for 12/7/2011.
Madam President, I'll move that we pay the check register dated 12/7/2011 in the amount of $25,026.55.
Second,
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Staff reports, anything particular anybody like to comment on? Mark, anything we need to be updated on?
Just very briefly, since you touched on this with regard to Westmore Lake, I mean, I want to make sure the board understands that whenever we have a project under construction, there's an inspector on that site that's looking at what's going on to make sure it's in compliance with the plans. And inspection reports are filled out and filed. You don't see them as a board, but the engineer or whomever is out there is filling out a formal report, taking pictures and documenting progress. That then becomes the basis for your progress payments. So just be assured that that's occurring on an ongoing basis. In terms of our activities, the big push we have right now is on the district-wide model. As you know, we're in the third year of that. This is the final year of that. So we are finishing up the modeling reports and probably more critically from a practical perspective, the actual floodplain mapping. And in that vein, I do want to, I guess, let you know that if you recall last year, after year 2, we had most of the area on the public drainage systems and upstream of Baldwin Lake mapped. And Anoka County at that time started a floodplain update. We submitted that information as a district on behalf of the cities. First, we went to the cities of Forest Lake and Columbus and asked if they were okay with Rice Creek submitting that, and we did. And I'm glad to say that most of that information, well, all of that information essentially that Rice Creek developed, prepared, and submitted to FEMA has now reflected in the floodplain maps. So your investment of doing this back, starting this in 2008, in my mind has been a direct benefit to the residents of the district in that you now have much improved updated maps which you wouldn't have otherwise. There still are some gaps in those maps. For example, there are pieces off of the public drainage system that we didn't map as part of the district-wide because it really wasn't a priority for the district. Our focus has been on the main lakes, the main public drainage systems. But so in hurrying up here for year 3, the whole 5362 system we didn't submit last year, but the comment period's open right now for the Anoka update. So we're working diligently to get that in to FEMA as a part of the comment period here so the rest of the city of Blaine can be mapped as well. So I just wanted to point that out. You know, again, the board focuses on, you know, deservedly so on the dollars going out, but I want you to know this is a good example of where you've realized, in my opinion, as your engineer, a very improved benefit because now you have consistent floodplain maps that we can use for the regulatory program, which is why you did in part the district-wide program, and it's the same boundaries that the cities use in their local decision-making as well.
Mark, if we hadn't had this done, then each city would have had to submit their own, or would FEMA then redo their own mapping?
Good question, Manager Preiner, President Preiner. I mean, normally what would happen if you don't have this kind of information, the cities would have to, you know, if they had some local information, they would submit that on their own behalf, or it just doesn't get changed. You know, they go through and they update with the information they have if there's been a letter of map revision or something else, but certainly they don't have the level of detail that you've generated as a district here. So, you know, you have a much better tool out there. We're going to appreciate it in the regulatory program for certain. So,
Madam President.
Yes.
So we have a regional plan of the entire watershed district here being mapped. That's a regional area of one of the 81 watersheds that are in the state of Minnesota, ours being number 20. We now have a regional floodplain mapping of it.
President Preiner, Manager Waller, yes, we've updated.
Thank you.
We've updated everything for the district for the public drainage systems and public water courses and lakes.
Madam Chair, I know this is being done in other places, but help me out. Hasn't the state or somebody else, DNR, haven't they started this type of thing? Are we able to talk to everybody else? Are we playing off the same page with all our modeling and everything like that, and other modeling that's being done?
Sure. President Preiner and Mr. Tomczyk has something to add to this, but the answer is yes. I mean, the district has been essentially the entity which has put everyone on the same page by doing this work. Again, they've been working with the communities, letting them know that the district is doing this project, submitting the information to FEMA, working with the cities, you know, making DNR aware that the district has made this investment. So in my view, I guess it's the district that has put people on the same page, which otherwise would not have resulted, in my opinion. Nick, I don't know if you had something to add.
Yeah, the only comment I would add, FEMA's big push was to provide digital maps to communities. Historically, that would be the county at large with the municipalities cut out of those maps and such, and there was quite a bit of disconnect. You know, the city boundary would move and the maps, now you'd have to get a county map and that sort of thing. So FEMA's push was to digitize map and use the best available information. Obviously, Rice Creek has very good information to provide to FEMA, DNR is the state representative that FEMA works through. DNR is the one who writes the, what do you call it, the sample or the template floodplain ordinance that FEMA needs to recognize that we are administering the federal program correctly. So some folks, unfortunately, just got the paper map digitized with no updates or just those simple letter of map amendments that occurred over time. But as Mark has clearly stated, we provided some very good information which resulted in significant changes, accurate maps, which now are on the same page.
FEMA, just as a, I always want the board to know that when when your information's being used, and it's a bit biased because it is my opinion, but that LiDAR data, for example, if you recall, we hired a contractor to collect that high-resolution topographic data, which we needed to do the modeling anyway. FEMA took all that stuff, again, in updating the maps and improving their accuracy. So, I mean, in that case, I think we spent $70,000 in the district to generate that information, made it available to the cities. We get requests from the cities to use it. I mean, it's great information. So, just from a pure technical perspective, it clearly was a wise investment, but people are using that. So I feel good about it because the district-wide modeling program, again, we focus on the money being spent. I think we're at $1 million for that program over 3 years. But potentially just these revised floodplains updated, that there's no discrepancy anymore between, Rice Creek, when we permit something, and a community that comes in with a permit, and everyone has better information. I mean, I don't know how you count up that benefit and that cost savings, but it's there and it's real.
Good. Well, thank you.
I-
Thank you, Mark.
I'd just quickly add that, so the benefit is accurate maps based on very detailed information where historically that wasn't. And so you had losers who had to pay for flood insurance when in actuality with today's data they were not in the floodplain. So they'll see a benefit of their mortgage holder will recognize hopefully that they don't need to provide that anymore, flood insurance, and maybe $400 a year or whatever the case is. Certainly, there are those people who are now in the floodplain and will be subject to flood insurance. While that's, disappointing, I'm sure it is reflected on accurate information.
That's good. Okay. What else do we have? Any more reports? Calendar for January, everybody understands. A manager's update. Waller.
Present.
Accounted for.
Accounted for. Wageman.
Accounted for.
Aki.
Yes, a couple of items. First of all, Kyle is still here in the audience, and I think that we should congratulate him because he did get Minnesota Association of the Soil and Water Conservation Districts for Project of the Year. But that was by Anoka County submitted his name. He was the first one up on stage. I went to their luncheon yesterday with Kyle. The second thing we had was Ramsey County put Northwestern College in as their project and did not say anything to deal with the fact that we paid 25%, I believe, towards it. So in essence, Rice Creek Watershed was mentioned on 2 projects of the year out of all of the counties that submitted them. And Kyle does a very good job representing us, and I thought it was very excellent that he was recognized at that banquet and luncheon. The other thing is that with Maud, I had completed my 3rd term, and it is a 3-term limit. And so as of Saturday afternoon, Jerome Deal will be now the new president for Maud. I'm still on the board, but he'll be the new president. And Jerome Deal has been the chair before for Bowser and many other things, and he's been very active up in the Red River to deal with the detention areas that they're doing. As far as our resolutions go, the resolutions went, except for the very first one. It was really written just for Prior Lake, and it had to deal with the appointment of managers that their county commissioners make. And it was finally defeated after bringing it back a couple of times just to see whether they could do something to tweak it. According to some of the attorneys that get phone calls from the county commissioners or the staff of the various counties, they see that there's a little discrepancy in how the law is written, which is no big surprise. 5 different ways that you could probably get an appointment in as to the managers. He wanted to clarify it, because they're having some inner conflict within that Prior Lake District, Watershed District, where the WMO wants to take it over and have the Watershed District done away with. But what is done is that us as managers, our names are submitted by cities, and then it goes to the counties. And some counties wonder, are they supposed to take from those nominations that come from cities, or can it be from other ones? And I think there's still a lot of flexibility. I have never been personally endorsed by any city. It's just that I was interested in it, goes to county, then, a lot of us go through an interview process before we're appointed anyway, and it didn't need to necessarily come from any organization or agency or city. So there's still a way to play on it. But I assume that because in their situation, the people are looking at it very closely as to how the law is written, because they're objecting to having their watershed district taken away. So the first resolution did fail. The rest of them went through. We had some wonderful things on invasive species, and the biggest thing of all was the zebra mussel. There is things on a website that you can watch, and I do have the PowerPoint presentation that was given on that. It's a scary thing, and it shows how it can take over a lake totally, and how we have to clean boats off before we launch them into anything. And I have no idea when our premier lake, White Bear Lake, has boats put in, what could happen to something like that. It's a frightening thing. But overall, it was a very good convention. We had, with wives, some of the wives that had come, and in and out staff, et cetera, 749 people, and I think that they just said at the Soil and Water Conservation District that they had about 700 people. But man, did that look like a lot of people in attendance at that luncheon, because all those counties brought in their families that are farm families and everything, and the one farm family that came through with the major award of all was a husband and wife with their 4 children or 5, and then they had twins and everything, and they're all there. And it's fabulous what farmers can do for their property to help water quality and hold back on flooding too. So that was very interesting yesterday with the Soil and Water Conservation District. So that's my report.
Bill, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, President Pryor, Board of Managers, as I mentioned and we discussed at the workshop, I'd just like to congratulate and thank Manager Hockey for her 3 years of service as the MAUD statewide president. I myself have witnessed a great improvement and just a great level of excitement and enthusiasm in MAUD in general, and a lot of the programs and advances that the MAUD overall has made. Particularly, I had a chance to see over the last year and a half the roundtable discussions and how Barb was really a leading proponent of moving forward some really government efficiencies, better way of doing business, and still achieving our water management goals for the district and for the state. And so I guess I wanted to personally thank her for all her work over the last 3 years as MAUD president, and also safe travels with her and Truman for the next couple months. So,
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I wanted to say that too, and a personal thank you to Barb for representing Rice Creek Watershed at MAUD. We appreciated every moment of it.
Madam President, should we send Manager Hockey a letter for thanking her for her 3 years of service? Because that is an extra pain, and I believe we should send her a letter of recognition and thank you.
Sure.
Thank
Agreed.
you. Thank you very much.
The next thing is that we have our meeting at 1:30, and that's going to be here in this room.
yep, right here.
If we can, I'd like to see our people be here at 1 so that we can be ahead of their guests for the day. Anything else anybody needs? If not, I'll call for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made second, and all in favor.
Aye. Motion carries.